All right. Let's Man, what a morning it has been. I can only, it's funny. I've been texting with some coaches this morning and they're all and I'm just like, I can only imagine the craziness for coaches that are in districts that maybe got shocking news today. Maybe their district's smaller than it's supposed to be. And so now they're scrambling for games, or maybe they now have to cancel a game because, oh, we picked up an extra, you know. And we'll go through some of those. 3AD1, District 1's one of those that we didn't know if it was going to stay a 4-team district, if it was going to be five. And, us being Bushlanites originally, I just know how hard it is for Coach Reynolds to schedule games because for some reason none of the big schools want to play, and it doesn't make sense to play the big 5As, like Tascosa, but a lot of schools don't want to play the Canadians and the Bushlands and schools like that, the Walls, and so you end up having to, when you're in a smaller district and you have even more non-district games, you end up it's just a today is a day of scrambling. And if you see a coach put out his schedule, like I know I've already gotten Springtown's football schedule for next year, those are happy coaches because it's like, okay, that part's done. And so today's an exciting day. And I know it's a weird process that we go through. Everybody's like, well, how do you make sense of it? I don't know how we make sense of it. We take snapshots in October and then we get cutoff lines because they start doing the math and try to keep how the right number of people in each classification. And um, but we get to today, and it's just really fun for people like us and fans to talk about, but sometimes I think that there's some big misses, and sometimes I think that, and let's go through them. Let's just jump in. Hold on. I don't mean to look down a lot when I do this, but my entire production screen's right here with all of the graphics and everything, so it'll slide through. But let's just start at 5A District D1, District 2, which is kind of our premier big school district now. With Friendship coming down from 6A, and we'll hit 6A. We love the Midland Lee and Odessa Permian people, but for what we cover as Sideline Sports, this is kind of our big school district, and it ends up being an 8-team district. Um, I know a lot of people, this is pretty much right where we expected it to be, minus the fact that Abilene High could have gone east into the Metroplex, maybe saved a few miles. But I think that as far, I mean, and I know there's been a couple times they've done that, but historically, I think UIL has always looked at Abilene and Wichita Falls, Amarillo, and Lubbock as West Texas. And so they tend to keep us all together. And we'll talk about when one of the biggest misses of the day when we get down to volleyball and basketball districts, and why that mindset sometimes leads them to make some very, we'll just call it a not great decision, and we'll get there. But this one's pretty cut and dry. Like the 7 Lubbock and Amarillo schools, it makes perfect sense. Abilene High um, is that one kind of outlier. They were going to have to travel no matter what. I can tell you the Emerald High and Tascosa people would have loved to have seen them make those trips to Dallas because that would have meant they weren't making trips to Abilene. And why that matters, sometimes people, we put out ahead of time some of the mileage disparity because in just the conversations of, are we going to send Andrews to El Paso, or are we going to keep a 4-team district in 4A? Are we going to send Hereford south and make this district a 5-team because everybody wants to do away with 4-team districts because God forbid that everybody make the playoffs. And sometimes 4-team districts just make sense due to mileage. And why does that matter? You're like, it's a Friday night game. But it's not just a Friday night game. It's your sub-varsity games. Are we going to ask freshmen to leave class at 11 a.m. on a Thursday and drive all the way from, let's just use uh, one of the examples we had was Hereford to Andrews, and make that drive, play a game, drive home, get home. I mean, at the earliest, probably 1 a.m., maybe 2. And then we're going to say, hey, but also part of being a great student athlete is you don't miss class on Friday. And I know we're only going to give you 4 or 5 hours of sleep after a long bus ride. And let's not even talk about the recovery side of Visit Wise to get on a bus and ride that long after a game. But so that's why distance makes is important in some of these. And so I understand completely why Emerald High and Abilene don't want to be traveling back and forth. And I really think that this is the one conversation that ought to be had in this district is it time for Abilene to redraw some of their lines? Because Abilene High is 5AD1. They're the only Abilene school that's 5AD1. And they're only over that cut line, if I remember correctly, by about 60 students. And so one of the Abilene schools was in the 1500s, one was in the 17s, and then Abilene High is in the 1900s in enrollment. A slight shift in some redrawing of lines by a school board would have kept all three Abilene schools in the same district and really would have, I mean, let's be honest, if you're an Abilene High parent family, you probably like that because at least you're getting a couple of home district games. Are you still going to have to travel? Absolutely. But where you see here, you have Emerald High, Tascosa, Caprock, all in Amarillo. They're going to be able to play some of those games at home. Friendship Memorial, Lubbock High, and Monterey, they're not going to have to travel as much for those district games. And so when you see a big school district like an Abilene High that has multiple schools, it always makes me wonder, and I'm sure they have their own reasons, and there's people that would, you know, get the pitchforks out if you tried to redraw their line because they're going to be up Abilene High and they don't want to go to Wiley or whatever it is. And but it is a conversation worth having of how districts manage their enrollments to keep schools together. But this one, I think this one's pretty cut and dry. And so let's look here. Let's go to 5AD2. Here's where you're going to see Wiley and Cooper. Would Abilene High, with a little bit of roster management, like to have been in this district? Probably. I mean, just for the sake of travel. But PD, Wichita Falls, Memorial, Wichita Falls Legacy. We just saw Wichita Falls actually go from 3 schools to 2. So these are 2 brand new schools. Then you have Lubbock, Cooper, Coronado, Wiley, and Abilene Cooper. This is going to be a fun district. It was already a fun district in football. Not much changes. Coronado did come down from D1 into D2. And so that's, you know, I think for Coronado, it's probably going to help them. Man, got some athletes over there. Campbell Stanek, congratulations to Campbell. Committed to Incarnate Word, going D1. It was cool last summer out at the WT, we'll just call it exposure camp, you know, WT camp. Campbell, man, he put on a show. I remember talking to Coach Bain afterwards, and he's like, man, I was not planning to offer anybody today, but I got to offer that young man. And so what's cool is Coach Bain, and this is why relationships matter and why even sometimes, and we tell young athletes, even if you maybe don't love that school, build the relationship because relationships matter in this entire thing. And with the recruiting, I have a senior who will be signing at Hardin Simmons this week, and that's exciting. And we love Coach Bain, and you always have these relationships that you're like, hey, that may open a door later. Well, what it did for Campbell was Coach Bain gets hired as the new OC at Incarnate Word, who already is really high on Campbell, and now he comes, makes him a priority, and so now Campbell, because he had a really, really, really great showing. Let's be honest, he's a heck of a football player, but he did a great showing at Friendship, earned that offer, and because he earned that offer and continued to produce and continued to build on that relationship, now he's going with Coach Bain to Incarnate Word, and that's just a cool piece of that. And so, but Coronado has some athletes, and so moving down to D2 now, I'm going to tell you right now, and I'll just go and throw this prediction out. PD's winning this district next year. That team, man, they were really good this year, but they're returning a lot, and with some guys that they're going to be ready to go. So just early prediction on realignment day. 5AD2 runs through PD, and so that kind of takes care of the 5A divisions. Let's jump over to 4A. This one is one of the ones that we kind of had a question. Was it going to be a 5-team? Was it going to be a 6-team? Good job, UIL, keeping Hereford here, because the conversation was, do we send Hereford down here? It was one of the two major talking points in 4AD1. The other was, are we going to consolidate District 3 and put them everywhere and bring one of the Metroplex districts into Region 1? And what that would have done was that would have sent Andrews and Greenwood out to El Paso in District 1, and that would have been a terrible scenario for travel, for families, for student athletes. Um, I want to commend UIL for getting these two right. This was the right call um, with Canyon, Pampa, Dumas, West Plains. You got the three CISD schools. We go back to managing enrollments. CISD does it as well as anybody. Now you've got three CISD schools: Pampa, Dumas, Hereford. Great travel schedule for all those schools. Good job, UIL, keeping Hereford right here. And so go back here. Andrews, Greenwood, Plainview, Lakeview, print the playoff shirts. I know not everybody loves it, but 14 playoff, everybody's going. But what this really does is, as unfavorable as even some of these trips can be, I know Plainview to Andrews is not ideal. But unfortunately, out here in West Texas, you get some of these divisions, and 4AD1 being that, in the Permian Basin, there's just not a lot of them. Like, it's hard. Like, where do you put them? And I want to applaud UIL for doing the best thing that they could here, which was Plainview, San Angelo, Lakeview, Midland, Greenwood, Andrews. Man, that they got this one right, and I'm glad they did, because that could have been a lot of trouble if you had put Greenwood and Andrews out in that El Paso district. It would have not been. It just wouldn't have been the best thing. And so, let's jump down to D2. This first district, you're going to see Big Spring now in D2. Comes in with Snyder, Pecos, Fort Stockton, Seminole. This is a very favorable district for Seminole. Now, I'll tell you, I don't think Seminole was upset that Greenwood went D1 because Greenwood has had a heck of a squad the last 2 years, and so has Seminole. And but that district championship has run through Greenwood, and so 4AD2 District 2 is now open for competition, and so that's exciting for them. Move over to District 3. This is the same district, and what sucks for this one is it has nothing to do with what UIL did. It just had to do where the line fell. Perryton missed the cut line by 5, and they the number that they had put in, it felt like they were almost going to be a lock for 3AD1. And numbers moved differently this time. You don't typically see, we've seen them jump a lot recently. New schools opening, enrollment shifting. This was one of those years, and we'll see it when we get down to D2, where like the D2 to D1 2A line went down and like by 6, and that was a big drop, because what it did is those numbers can capture schools. Like we're gonna talk about New Home and Panhandle getting caught there. Well, Perryton ends up 5 over the line. It's hard in football. It gets really hard in volleyball. That is not a district that you want to be a small school building building a program in, and because you can get challenged every single night. And so we'll look at basketball and volleyball here in a minute. I just wanted to run through football first. Let's jump down to 3A. This one, we're going to see a pretty significant change from the travel for the Dalhart and Bushland, but it's actually beneficial to Shallow Water. So River Road has dropped down to D2. This was a 4-team district for the last 2 cycles. And so it's been Bushland, Dalhart, River Road, Shallow Water. Shallow Water's just made the trip like the champions. Man, they put it in. And it was just part of it. Well, now, with River Road going down, we knew they were going to bring Brownfield in. Brownfield was the most logical addition here. And so the question was, do you keep this a 4-team district and just slide Brownfield into River Road, which already does benefit Shallow Water a little bit, or do you make this a 5-team district? And you know, obviously there has been an emphasis on as many. Let's get rid of as many 4-team districts as we can, and I like it. Like, go out and earn the playoffs. That's a good thing. That's not. I'm not knocking that. And so Denver City slides over here. It's going to add a little bit of travel to Denver City because now they're going to have to go to Dalhart. They're going to have to go to Bushland. But it's not uncommon for them because Dalhart, if I remember correctly, Dalhart and Denver City have had, they've been playing non-district games anyway. And so, once again, for Dalhart and Bushland, they're always looking. And Canadian, and we'll talk about them in a minute, they're always looking. So this is actually a beneficial thing for them because now instead of having 3 district games, you've got 4. And so maybe that helps alleviate a little bit of that travel because like we talked about earlier, Bushland's had Midland Christian, they've had El Paso Riverside, they've had Andrews. They've had to travel to try to find games to fill that non-district schedule. So it will be nice to have a guaranteed 4th game. I think if you were talking to Coach Reed or Coach Reynolds from Dalhart and Bushland, they will be glad because it's hard to get those games when you're way up there in the Panhandle. And so, but it does also bring a 5-team district. Now you're gonna have to work for it. I was talking to my buddy David Escalante from DJE Media this morning. He said, after the announcement came out in Denver City, he said, the common theme is now we've got to go out and get it. We've got to go out and earn that playoff spot. And so competition, man, it breeds champions, and so that's a good thing. District 2, and let me pause here real fast because Clyde's the first one on here, and I want to express just and send our condolences and just our thoughts and our prayers are with the community of Clyde. If you have not heard, there was a tragic accident yesterday in Clyde. They lost a brother and a sister, 2 students in the school, 18 and 16, in a vehicle accident. And man, just our prayers are with you. Like, that's just as someone who's lost a nephew as a teenager, it always hits close to home, and it's just those things are never easy. And so just know, Clyde, our thoughts, our prayers are with you. And so, Clyde, Lamesa, Kermit, Compass, Sweetwater, Jim Ned, be a heck of a man. Gonna be some football played in this district, and so really, this one is another one that, man, it makes great sense. Not too far of travel. Good job, UIL, putting this one together. Um, and then District 3, Wall. Welcome to 3A D1. Wall's liable to go out and win 3A D1 their first year. Watch. Dudes can play some football. And so they get TLCA in there early. Ingram Moore and Lano. This is once again another pretty well put together district. Keeps it at 5, and so with Wall coming in, with River Road going out, just some of the nuances of schools. I think UIL did a really good job of accomplishing the 2 of the goals that are really important. 1, which is just reasonable travel. And 2, which is the emphasis that going into this realignment that I've heard over and over and over again, which is no, let's get away from as many 4-team districts as possible. And so they did that in District 1 and District 2. And so I think it's a really good thing. Let's drop down to 3A D2. River Road comes down. We really weren't sure where Canadian was going to land. There was a really good shot that Canadian was going to end up in 2A. Probably should have. We just saw those 2A numbers shift downward. And so the Kings of the North will stay in 3A D2. This is going to be a good district too. Let's look over at District 2. Muleshoe, Idalou, Littlefield, Slayton, and Roosevelt. Idalou, just, man, what a run they had this year before they fell to the eventual state champion Wall Hawks. Man, felt like we've been saying state champion Wall Hawks a lot lately. They won it in Round Rock in baseball last year, come out and won it in football. Um, just an incredible just run and just a testament to the program they built over there. But Idalou, another one of those powerhouse programs. You're going to see Lubbock, Roosevelt, Slayton, Littlefield, and Muleshoe. Um, and we'll look at on the basketball side. There's going to be some good basketball. There's some basketball names right there that we just named off as well. 3AD2, District 3. This one's the one, man. If you're Coahoma and Stanton and San Angelo Grape Creek, you were not fired up when you saw Tornillo announce that they were not going to play football. Because this is typically a 4-team district: Crane, Alpine, Anthony, and Tornillo. Well, when Tornillo announces that they're not going to play, it's like, we've got to fill this district, and Stanton was the next logical. Now, good job. Stanton and Coahoma, I think they're probably 20 minutes apart, maybe a few minutes more, but really, really close. Stanton and Coahoma. And then they went ahead and put San Angelo Grape Creek into this as well. So it keeps them close to home for part of it. That Anthony, I mean, it's like driving to El Paso. I mean, I bet that's a 5-hour drive from Coahoma to Anthony. Had mapped that one. I should have. We've mapped a lot. So let's map it real fast. 5.5 hours, 377 miles. Maybe they meet in the middle somewhere for those sub-varsity games for the next couple of years. Maybe do it for the varsity too. But man, Stanton, Coahoma, and Grape Creek gonna have a haul. Not that Alpine and Crane are super close, but Anthony, and it's hard. I mean, you get over there at El Paso. There's a reason why there are El Paso only districts in 4A and 5A. The problem is Anthony's just not big enough, and they don't want to opt up that far. If I'm not mistaken, I don't know the numbers they turned in this time, but Anthony actually has 2A. Actually, I'm 99% sure they still do. They have 2A numbers, but they opt up because they'd be on an even bigger island if it was 2A. And so I feel like this is a no-win situation for UIL. You got to fill in the district. And so when we projected it, we knew that with Stanton going, we felt like they would probably move Coahoma too, just to give them a really, really close game, knowing that they had to have the far travel. But adding Grape Creek here is not a bad thing. Kind of gives you a little bit of a cluster there to offset some of that Anthony travel. And like I said, I'm sure the coaches in Anthony are already working with the coaches in Stanton, Coahoma, just about bridging that gap and some of that. Because, I mean, let's be honest, 377 miles, that's overnight travel. I mean, it should be. But with school budgets, how do you do that with freshman football and JV and everything that comes with it? So, jumping down to 2A, Panhandle, when they announced enrollment numbers, we felt like Panhandle was going back to D2 or going back to D2. They put in last time the cutoff was 181, if I remember right, maybe been 181 and a half, but it was right there. We felt like that number hasn't dropped in a long time, so you felt like, okay, well, when I think Panhandle submitted 177, 178, somewhere in there, maybe. But you felt like they were safely under that cut line. Turns out they weren't. And so Panhandle will stay D1. Fritz, Spearman, Sunray, Highland Park. Now, one school that does come out of this district is WT. WT did go D2. So when you don't see West Texas right here, it's because we'll see them in a moment when we look at 2AD2. But just one other notable thing, Panhandle quarterback Broxton Robinson will be signing with Army on Thursday, so congratulations to him. But that 5-team district really makes good sense on travel-wise. D2 or District 2, Farwell, Alton, Tulia, Floydada, Health Center. And this went a little different. I'm a little shocked actually because in D1, they actually expanded. They didn't make the districts as big as I thought they would because one of the goals and the reasons why we thought there might be a bigger district in 2AD1 Region 1 is because they typically try to even out the numbers. We know Region 3 is massive when it comes to 2AD1, and so we thought they might try to level some of that off. And so by doing that, they would have a bigger district in D1, but they didn't. They stuck to smaller districts, which I think will make a lot of coaches happy. But what it also did was Farwell was going to be in a district that had a little bit of travel for them because of where they sit. Instead, they'll kind of be out there because we projected, I believe, Tulia to go to D1, and Alton and Floydada stay with their group of New Home and Post to form a bigger district. But instead, you've got this 5-team district, and then you've got the Abernathy New Home Post group, that a new deal that welcomes Sundown into it. And so you've got 2 5-team districts, well, really 3 5-team districts here to start off 2AD1 in Region 1. We just thought, like I said, we thought that they would try to balance those numbers. And then instead, this is a little bit of a bigger district over here, but District 4, Ozona, Sonora, Cristobal, Colorado City. And so that's kind of Region 1, 2AD1. It's going to be interesting to see next year because you have the senior classes that are leaving Region 1 this year. You have phenomenal senior classes. So it's going to be fun next football season to kind of look through and see who comes out of here. I don't know that I have an early favorite at the moment. Panhandle's graduating quite a bit. Sunray was really young. Looking through here, New Home graduating. Abernathy's going to have a couple dudes back. Post graduates a lot. That Ozona team was tough, but I think they were pretty senior heavy as well. It's going to be interesting. 2A wide open right now until we really. I'm sure it's not as wide open if we dig into it, but from everybody that we saw, man, there was some great seniors in that 2A D1 class. And so let's look at D2 real fast. Stratford stays D2. West Texas moves into that. West Texas is another one of those schools that graduated a lot of talent and losing their coach. Coach Smith just took the job at Floydada. So West Texas High, if you're a high school coach looking for an opportunity, they're taking applications as that job is open. Groover, Stratford in the same district's always great football when you get those two schools going. 6-team district here in District 2. Ropes, Smyre, Sudan, Morton, Plains, Seagraves, pretty easy travel there. This one makes great sense. Look for Coach Riker and those Ropes Eagles to have a really good shot at that one. Oops. I just hit the wrong button. I might have uploaded the wrong thing. I uploaded to a D1 District 3 twice instead of D2. Let me give you that real fast. I'll just run you through it. And then we're going to get to the one that we're going to get to basketball, and the one that really just blows my mind. So District 3 for 2AD2 is actually Lockney, Tahoka, Crosbyton, Roscoe, Rawls, and Pathway. And then if you wanted District 4, El Dorado, Van Horn, Iran, McCamey, and Wink. Coach Gibson and those Wink Wildcats. And so that's football. Overall, did a pretty good job, you know. But this is where, before we even get into all, and I'll give you the overview because the basketball districts and volleyball districts. But this is probably the biggest swing and a miss that we have seen in a long time. I mean, So we talked earlier in the football side. This is volleyball and basketball. I know it says volleyball, but it's the same district for basketball. 5A District 3. So Friendship opens Memorial. And so now you've got Friendship coming from 6A, Memorial already a 5A because they split that district. We talked during football about how UIL typically looks at Wichita Falls, Abilene, Emerald, and Lubbock as West Texas. And they just are like, oh, those are the West Texas schools, throw them together in Region 1. Well, in doing that, they put this 10-team district in District 3, left because District 1 and 5A is always up. Let me give you the full overview here of 5A. So you've got the El Paso. We talked about how El Paso's way out there. You gotta set them up. So District 1 and District 2 are all the El Paso schools. And then you get to District 3. And you put 10 schools. Now, here's why this is really an issue for me is Wichita Falls naturally they fit better in that Fort Worth, that Argyle, Eagle Mountain district because it saves them over an hour of travel on district games. Like, why are you sending Wichita Falls to Abilene? That's 170, 180 miles from you. And there's not like, oh, let's hop on the highway and go. This isn't, hey, they're driving down I-20. These are back roads, state highways that you're stopping in every town. Not great service, not the roads you want buses going on late at night. There's just so many variables. It's just, it's long. It's not ideal. You deal with all the wildlife that can run out in front of you. It's not it's not a path having a senior in high school. It's not a path I'm going to say, hey, Parker, why don't you go drive that road at 10 o'clock at night after a game? Just not, anyway. So if you send Wichita Falls where they geographically fit, then what you do is you have the Amarillo ISD schools, which is Amarillo High, Tascosa, Caprock PD, and then you take Friendship, which is Memorial and the Tigers. Now you have a district there with 6 teams, reasonable travel. Amarillo, Lubbock, those schools go back and forth all the time. You expect that travel. And then you can take Lubbock, Cooper, and the LISD schools, and you can pair them with the Abilene schools. Now you have a 7-team district that was already used to that travel anyway because they've been in districts. So now you've got reasonable travel, good highways. You're either going I-27 or 87. And what you do also is the competitive balance. Because let's just talk about basketball. We're in the middle of basketball season right now. 5A, this District 3 is stacked. The girls' basketball. Let's use girls' basketball. You have Emerald High. You have Tascosa. You have PD, all 3 ranked in the top 15 right now. You have Monterey, the defending state champions. You have a Lubbock Cooper team that is a really, really, really good Lubbock Cooper team. Watch them play at Caprock on Tuesday. Those girls can get after it. So already you have 5 schools. One of them has to miss the playoffs. Okay, you can live with that. You're like, hey, listen, you should have been top 4. You win an extra game here or there. I'm okay leaving one out. But then you have Friendship, who is a top 25 team in 6A, who will be coming down. Memorial, who's a top 20 team in 4A. So now you're going to have at least 7 of your top, let's be generous, 7 of your top 40. Let's just say that way. Because I think they're probably higher, but let's just say generously this year, if this was the district, 7 of your top 40 teams in all of 5A you're going to put them in one district. Who are you doing a favor to? And then you're only going to put that's a 5-team district. So you have 10 and 5. Tell me how that makes sense. Keep Wichita Falls and Abilene, if you don't want to send, if you're like Stephen, Wichita Falls just doesn't fit in the Fort Worth, that North Fort Worth district with Argyle and Eagle Mountain and all that. Okay, so be it. Keep that 5. Let's send 2 of the Lubbock schools into that district. And at least then we have 8 and 7. Let's say you send Friendship. Friendship's got 2 schools. It makes sense. Keep LISD schools together. So now you got AISD, LISD in one district. You've got Friendship, Abilene, Wichita Falls in another. At least that makes sense. Because now you've got 8 and 7. Why in the world are we putting 10 teams in a district and just saying, oh, 10 and 5? We got 2 districts for 15 teams. That math makes sense. Major swing and a miss. Not a fan. Not a fan. So I know we're probably 30 minutes in here. So 4A, these pretty much stay a lot of the same. You've got your northern 4A as far as the Panhandle goes in District 4, which is your Borger, your Canyon ISDs, Dumas, Hereford, Pampa, Perryton. Sorry, Perryton. That's a tough one for them. District 5, Big Spring, Levelland, Liberty, Estacado, Plainview, San Angelo, Lakeview, Snyder. We're pretty used to that one already. District 3 is that Permian Basin area. This is where it gets really nice because there's just more room. There are more schools in that 4A realm. 4A, when you can merge them. I love. One of these days, we need to have the conversation in football of going back to doing what 6A does and doing what every other sport does. Let's just split them after district's over. Build a district, D1 and D2. Let's cut down on travel. Let's keep student athletes in the classroom because let's be honest, the goal is for athletics to be an addition to the classroom, to be a beneficial partner to the classroom, not to be something that pulls you away from the classroom for long extended periods of time. And not only that, but also that can impact the next day as well because you're tired, you've been on the bus, you didn't get home till 2. I love the fact that we don't split all other sports. Let's get there with football. 3A, again, this is pretty much what we're used to. You look up and down. Man, I probably should have just cut out region 2, 3, and 4. So region 1 would be bigger, but you've got your Amarillo area, which are Dalhart, Dimmitt, Freona, Bushland. This is volleyball, so obviously Bushland is the queens of region 1 until somebody figures out how to knock them off. And I'm telling you, with who's coming, good luck. Bushland is my pick to win state the next 2 years in 3A. And then District 2, Childress, Idalou, Littlefield, Talkington, and Shallow-Water, another great district. District 3, Brownfield, Cahoma, Denver City, Lamesa, Compass, Stanton. Man, these make sense. These are great for travel. They sound like they'd be great football districts. And then the one addition that I do want to point out here is what's cool is to see New Home on the volleyball side for the first time. Went out and hired a phenomenal coach in Coach Candy Stevens, which makes that an even. I mean, I'm just going to go ahead and call it. Let me do this. We're going to wrap this thing up. I'm going to go ahead and call it. New Home is a playoff team, year 1 in volleyball. Coach Stevens is as good as they come. That was a home run hire by the Leopards, but exciting. Obviously, my son's a senior. I have a daughter that plays volleyball, who we've homeschooled so that she could play with the Lubbock Titans because New Home didn't have volleyball and for some other reasons. But it fit for us and our family. But obviously, we're big public school advocates. And outside of this volleyball, basketball, 5AD3, I really think that this is one of those realignments where, and that was a big swing and a miss. Big. Like, I don't want to minimize it. But for the most part, especially in football, UIL did a really good job. You could have done minor tweaks. Of course, Abilene in the district could have sent them. I mean, there's little bitty things that you could say on the fringes. Well, what if they did this or that? But they did a really, really, really good job this year of keeping the student athletes in mind. And if you follow me, that's very often, or you've been with us on Sideline Sports, that's the key, man. We we want to um, we want to always keep the student athletes at the center of everything. Um, let me take that back. We want to keep Jesus at the center of everything, but when we make decisions about athletics, we want to keep our student athletes at the forefront. And so it's definitely in that order. Like it's Jesus above everything, and then we keep student athletes in the center of everything we do. And so if you have more questions, I love the fact it's been fun to get all the messages and answer. And we try to break down as many districts as we can with enrollment. It is hard. Um, you get 90% me, especially in the Lubbock area. And then we have Austin, who absolutely just, dude, if you haven't met Austin yet and you're in the Amarillo area, you've probably seen him somewhere. That dude, he has been a workhorse during basketball. But he's a baseball guy, and so if you are a baseball fan in West Texas, you should be really excited because he's going to have great coverage there. He's actually a beat guy for the Sod Poodles. Sod Poodles. That's actually how we met him originally. One of these. Actually, we're gonna have to bring him on and tell his story so you can see his face, put a name with it. But that is my extra long, super breakdown here. This is going to be a really good realignment. I think that, like I said, I wish there was a way to fix. Sometimes you roll out a car and something goes wrong. You're like, oh, hey, let's do a quick recall on that and let's fix it so that it's awesome. Sometimes I wish that was this. They rolled it out and then because sometimes on paper things just don't look the same as they do in application. And when they get rolled out to the people who they're going to affect, it'd be nice if there was a way to make some changes. But we know that doesn't happen that way. And so thanks for hanging out. Stephen Lyles, once again, just want to wrap it up with, man, our thoughts and prayers are with our friends down in Clyde. And so way bigger than anything that we have going on here with football and sports and volleyball. And it does a really good job of keeping life in perspective. And so our thoughts and prayers are with y'all. We love you guys. Thank you all for just your support of Sideline Sports and what we do. I have incredible sponsors, and I can't thank you enough. Actually, I'm gonna put some of them on the screen here. That's a football one. That's what I have, but a lot of them are the same across the board. Like it's just. And we couldn't do what we do without them. But our goal, is to continue to grow. And so if you'd like to partner with us, holler at me. So anyway, excited. Been a great day. Realignments here. Now let's go get ready for some baseball, softball, and track because those seasons are here. And then good luck to everybody that is already locked in or making their final basketball playoff push. It's always fun to that march and that run to San Antonio. So we'll talk to you soon. Have a great day and God bless.